All right, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of goal setting for our MRT training. We covered the classroom portion, and this is all kind of classroom portion because we're virtual, but now we're going to get a little bit more into the hands-on portion here. So we're really going to need the PDF that I've got attached in the description of this video. If you're watching this on some other platform, then your leadership will provide that PDF to you. But we're going to start actually walking through an example of doing the 7-step process of goal setting. So we'll do an example that I completed of a goal that I set up, and then afterwards you'll have the opportunity to make one of your own. And I really encourage you to do that here because you're basically getting paid to flesh out a dream, figure out how you're going to achieve a goal. I mean, we're coming into the beginning of the year, so it's a good time to do something like that. And you're on a drill status, and who else is going to pay you to set up hopes and dreams and come up with a goal to help you achieve something far out into the future that requires a 7-step process? Normally, you'd have to do something like this on your own time without getting paid, but you're in a drill status now, so you can get paid to do it. So why not, huh? So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just know that I'll be switching back and forth between the slideshow and the PDF quite a bit, so don't be distracted by that. Hopefully that's helpful to you. All right. So there are 7 steps, as we discussed earlier, to the goals, to the goal setting process. First step here is to define your goal, and remember the key word here is end state. Your end state is what your goal is. That's where you're going. We're going to refer to the PDF. It says page 20 here, but it actually starts on page 29, I think. Let me pull that back up. Oh, I guess I adjusted that. Okay, so it's page 20. We'll start there. That's where the example is, and then this is what we've got pre-filled out. This is my goal. You'll have a chance after my goal is listed here. There will be a bunch of blank sheets that you can print out and use for yourself. So this process, again, can be used for personal or career goals, to enhance specific performance, or to achieve a dream. You should set a goal that's complex, so basically something that's big enough to warrant a 7-step process. But it's something that you want to do, something that you actually want to do, not just something that you think would be good, but something that is motivating to you to achieve. So goals should be specific to be most effective. For example, if I was to just say my goal is to retire, well, that is a goal, but it's not very specific. It would be more effective to say, I want to retire no later than 2025 in Colorado Springs. So that's a little bit more specific. It gives me an end time, or a suspense date, to put it in Army terms, and that suspense date motivates me to actually doing things. Because if I just say I want to retire, well, that is a good thing to try and do, but when and how and where am I going to go when I retire? Make it a little bit more specific and put a time on it. That way it's easier for you to push yourself to action, because for the most part, people are procrastinators, and I fall into that category too. All right. So you're more likely to achieve your goals when you're internally motivated. So we'll get to that here in the PDF. But remember, internal motivation is a pretty big deal with something that's long-term like this 7-step goal. Identify values that have the greatest influence on your daily behavior, and then in 1 to 2 sentences explain how each value will help you achieve your goal. So let me show you what I mean by that. So my goal here, my outcome, is to complete a half marathon, and my suspense date is no later than December 31st of next year. So I've got a little bit over a year to do this. So this chart here has a list of values. This is This is purely there to help you start to get the gears turning in your head. These things are values, and values are a source of internal motivation. So what I've done is I've gone in and I've checked off 5 different values that are important to me, things that I use on a daily basis that help me get through the day. So look at this list and decide, okay, what kinds of things on this list do I do very often? Don't tailor what you check here towards your goal. That's not really how this is supposed to work. If you tailor this towards your goal, but these things that you check aren't actually things that you do or things that come naturally to you, they're actually not going to be sources of internal motivation for you. And you're basically going to sabotage the process right from the start. So go into this list and find at least 5 things here that you do naturally. So for me, it was gratitude, perseverance, personal courage, teamwork, and then I had kind of one that didn't really fit the list, so I put it in the other. I said setting a good example for my kids, or my kid. These are all examples of internal motivation for me. They're values that are important to me personally. And then after I checked those 5 things, I went down below here, just below the box, and I listed the value. And then I wrote a couple of sentences about how it will help me achieve my goal. So remember, my goal is to complete a half marathon by the end of next year. So for gratitude, I have friends and loved ones who passed away too young and can't pursue their goals. I'm grateful that I still have the opportunity. That kind of thought is going to help me to push through when I actually don't really want to do the things that I need to do to become someone who can complete an Ironman. And then perseverance, or half Ironman. Perseverance. I'm not a quitter. I work hard at whatever I put my mind to, and I'm committed to doing the same with this goal. So I'm not really someone who likes to leave things half done. Once I start something, it's a source of pride for me to see it through to fruition. Personal courage. I've never tried anything like this, so it's going to take some bravery to share it with friends and family and to push through to the end. An Ironman is definitely something I've never done before. I've done marathons, so I've done running, but I've never done any form of competitive swimming or biking. So this is new territory for me. I'm going to have to change up the way I train, and I'm also going to have to share this with my friends and family, which is kind of intimidating because what if I fail? You know, what if I stink it up at the race, or what if I actually don't follow through? So personal courage is something that's going to help me achieve my goal. And then setting a good example for Emily, my baby girl. Seeing this goal through will demonstrate courage, perseverance, and other life lessons for Emily. It will also make Emily proud of me. Well, maybe if Emily was a little bit older, I don't know. She watches our neighbors' kids at competitive swim meets. So I'm sure that she would understand at least a little bit that Daddy's going through and completing this race. So that's a source of motivation for me too. I want her to see me do this and to train for it and to finish it. And then teamwork. Even though it'll be just me out there on race day, it'll take support and sacrifice from my whole family to make this dream a reality. Dircey's going to have to run interference on Emily for me while I'm out there training and running, because there's going to be a lot of training required to become someone who can do a half marathon. So that's step 1. You define your goal, and then you come up with a couple of sources, or a handful of sources that will internally motivate you to achieve that goal. So that's step 1. Step 2, know where you are right now. So remember the GPS example. This is you plugging in your current location or your starting location. And remember, the key word here is energize. So in step 1, we defined where we're going. Now we have to figure out where we are. After you know where you are, you can weigh the costs and benefits of taking different routes. Some routes might have tolls, some routes might have construction, You have to plan for all that when you start the trip in order to have a good trip. So once you have the end state in mind, you think about what it will be like to arrive. Think of a benefit of arriving to your final destination, and then juxtapose that with an obstacle that will make it difficult to get there. So again, we are going back to the PDF here. Step 2, know where you are right now. Ideally, we would do this with a partner, but we're going to adjust this a little bit given our virtual environment. If you've got a spouse or a roommate or someone that you can do this with, by all means, do it. They'll have value in it too. But if you're running this solo, then we'll adjust this here a little bit. So what we're doing here is we're coming up with benefits of achieving our goal and obstacles that might make it difficult to get there. So what the idea here is to bounce back and forth, because if we list all of our benefits all at once, we're going to find ourselves on cloud 9. We're going to be really, really, really motivated, but it might put us in a state where we're in a feel-good state, but we don't actually go out and do anything because we haven't found anything that might get in our way. And alternately, if we start out just listing all of the obstacles, well, we're going to deflate ourselves, and all of the energy is going to leave this process, and it's not going to be easy to finish things up with a high level of motivation. So the idea is to list a benefit, something that when you achieve your goal, it's a good thing that'll make you feel good, that'll make you happy. Write down a benefit, dwell on it, and then jump over and bring yourself back down to base level with an obstacle and something that you're going to have to figure out how to overcome. You can consider these categories up at the top to help you kind of get the gears turning on what the benefits and obstacles might be. For me, benefits include I will receive promotion points because of enhancing my PT score. So training up to complete a half Ironman is for sure going to make me more physically fit, which will help me as a soldier. So that's a good thing. Promotions are good. More money is good. But an obstacle, I can't swim very well, and I haven't biked more than about 5 miles at a time. So that's something that'll get in the way. And then you just continue down the list. I'll be eligible for more schools because I'll have a better PT score. That's a good thing. More schools means more training, which makes me more appealing to the military, which means more likely to get promoted ahead of peers. And then an obstacle. I think about quitting a lot when I run. I need to develop a strategy to stop that. So it's kind of an attitude problem on my part. I will have another benefit. I will have so much more energy because of my new level of fitness. That's a good thing. It's not fun going through life just tired all the time. But being more physically fit makes that less of an issue. And then an obstacle. If I don't take time for my spouse, the tension will become an obstacle. We need to spend time together. So this goal is going to take a lot of my time. I'm going to need Dearsty to kind of bear with me while I do all of this training, because maybe more than likely there will be days where I just don't have the motivation to wake up super early, and she'll have to kind of run interference with Emily throughout the day while I train in the afternoons or in the evenings. And then we can continue on and on. The idea is to bounce back and forth. I mean, it doesn't have to be a one-for-one thing. If you think of more obstacles than benefits, or vice versa, you think of more benefits than obstacles, that's okay. But the idea is to not just stick with one category the whole time, because that's going to kind of stunt the process here. You're either going to end up super, super motivated with no direction for action, or you're going to end up super, super unmotivated because you just talked about all of the reasons that you can't do this thing. So that's step 2. And remember, the key word there is energize. So we're listing out these benefits to energize us. And then we go on to step 3. Decide what you need to develop. So remember, keyword here is priorities. You need to focus your efforts in areas that will move you towards your goal. Based on the obstacles you identified in step 2, identify the broad priority areas that you have to address to reach your goal. So, oftentimes, progress towards the ultimate goal requires progress in multiple areas. So we've got the big goal of completing the half Ironman by the end of next year. That's a good and laudable thing to try to do, but we need to break it up a little bit to make it more tangible, because bigger goals are fun, but oftentimes if we just leave it at that high level, there's no actionable steps. So what we're doing now is we're breaking down a couple of areas that we can focus on that will help us get to completing the goal of completing a half Ironman. And the way we do that is we look at what we just did in step 2. So we've got step 2 right here. We've got a list of obstacles. What we do in step 3 is we take a look at those obstacles and we try to categorize them, make them a little bit broader in scope so that we can focus on those broader areas of our obstacles. So what I've done based off the obstacles that I listed here is I've come up with these 4 categories, 4 priority areas. 1, physical fitness. That's pretty obvious with a half Ironman. 2, nutrition. Also obvious. 3, attitude. So that is reflected in me saying I can't swim very well, or I think about quitting a lot when I run. And then 4, balance. That's reflected in me trying to work well with Dirce and, making sure that I spend enough time with her and Emily throughout this process, because this is going to be a pretty time-intensive area. So try to come up with 4 for your specific thing. If you can't come up with 4, that's not the end of the world, but the more areas that you can come up with to focus on, the better that the process is going to flow later on here. And then step 4, make a plan for steady improvement. Remember, the key word here is SMART steps, and SMART stands for specific, measurable, action-focused, realistic, and time-bound. So at this point, what you're doing is you're making action statements for each of your priority areas. So remember, this process just builds upon itself. So let's take one of my priority areas, nutrition. A couple of things that I want to focus on, some action statements to help me improve in nutrition, are I want to drink at least 80 ounces of water a day. That's about a half gallon, I think. Yeah, I think that's around a half gallon. And then I eat 60% of carbs, 30% of healthy fat, and 10% of lean protein every day. So this is pretty tangible. It's specific. So let's take that first one. It's specific. I drink 80 ounces of water. It's measurable, 80 ounces. It's action focused, meaning it's something that I do. It's not something that I don't do. So be careful on these smart action statements. Make them things that you do, not things that you don't do. It's realistic. I mean, 80 ounces of water is easily attainable in one day. And it's time bound. I do it every day. So you're going to just flesh this out for each of your priority areas. So let's pull up my other ones here. Physical fitness. I mean, I could do another one there. I run no less than 3 times a week, and I run no fewer times than 3 times a week, and I have one long run on Saturday mornings. That's no less than 10 miles. Something like that. Something that is specific, measurable, action-focused, realistic, and time-bound. Okay, I think that's pretty clear. So let's move on to the next part of step 4. So step 4 is kind of a 2-phaser. You've got these action statements, which are SMART, and then we have power statements. So let's go back to the slides here for the power statements. So power statements provide confidence and energy to complete your action statements. So these are ways that you kind of pump yourself up to complete the SMART steps that you outlined in the first half of step 4. So power statements are purposeful, productive, and they contain possibility. So for me, a couple that I use for nutrition I expect great things out of my body, so I put only great things in, and fuel the machine. So they're little short, pithy statements that you can look back to and remember, and there's something that pump you up in the moment. You can think of like quotes from movies. I think of Galaxy Quest, if you guys have ever seen that. Never give up, never surrender. Those little things. Find something that can easily come back to mind for you, because the idea is these are purposeful, productive, and possible. So for purposeful, that means that you plan to think them deliberately rather than allowing thoughts to occur randomly. So the idea here is to motivate yourself to achieve those smart steps. And you're not always going to want to do the things that are outlined in those smart steps. So rather than letting things come to you and affect the way that you think and you just reacting to them, it makes more sense for you to come up with things that you'll think about in the moment that will help you push through those feelings of counterproductivity. So for example, if I think about eating a bunch of bad stuff or drinking a bunch of energy drinks, well, that is definitely in contrast or runs against my priority area of nutrition. So I need to come up with these power statements that help me push through those basically moments of temptation. Something that my track coach told me a lot when I was running track in high school, and I wish I would have listened to him because I probably would have been a better track runner, is that you don't put cheap gas in a Ferrari. And what he meant by that was you need to eat well, and it'll help you be a better runner, a better athlete. Which kind of falls right in step with the two power statements that we've got listed on this slide here. So let's go back to the PDF here. So write those down. Write those down in your power statement. And you're going to do this for each of your priority areas. So we covered priority area number 2, which was nutrition. But you're going to do this for all 4 of the priority areas that you come up with. And this is what it'll look like when you're finished. You'll have, and this page, there's a blank version of this page in the PDF that I've provided to you. But basically you're going to have a quadrant, or you're going to have 4 areas, 4 priority areas, and you'll have these action statements listed there, as well as the power statements listed below the action statements. So this is what a finished product will look like for you. All right, so now we are moving from the planning phase to the action phase. So step 5, the word here, the key word here is when, which means what's important now. The idea is to identify something that you can do in the next 24 hours that will get you closer to achieving your goal. So it's actionable. It's an actionable thing right here and now, something that you can do quick, because the idea is to do things regularly to get you towards your goal. I mean, this is a long-term thing, but you want to be doing things every day or almost every day that point you towards achieving that goal. If you really want to achieve a goal that you set for yourself, it doesn't make sense to let a single day go by that you don't do something to get closer to it, even if it's a small step. This step will have to be repeated on a regular basis, typically daily or weekly. So the idea here is to identify an action statement that you can complete today or tomorrow, and to identify a power statement to use today or tomorrow to motivate you to complete that action statement. So let's go back to the example here with my half Ironman. So, something that I can do. Action statement to complete in the next 24 hours. Drink at least 80 ounces of water. That's totally doable in a day. Power statement that's going to motivate me to do that. I expect great things out of my body, so I only put great things in. And then you've got the action statement, the power statement listed here. Next, you go into your strategy to ensure that you do this regularly. So I'll focus on the nutrition priority area, selecting one item a day to put on my to-do list until it becomes routine. Then I'll layer on actions from another priority area. So you don't have to start trying to do everything all at once. I mean, you'll probably overwhelm yourself if you try to go all in all at once. So start slow, unless you really just think that you can do more than one or two of these things at once, by all means, but don't burn yourself out. Layer this in a little bit over time. And then how and when will I check on my strategy or system to ensure that I've completed my SMART actions? I'll revisit my to-do list each night when I get home and cross off any items I completed. So for me, on this step 5, pursue regular action, I need to revisit this daily. Maybe you need to do that too. Maybe daily is good for you. Maybe it's every other day. Maybe it's once a week. Find out what works for you. Not every goal is going to have the same schedule that mine does. All right. Step 6, commit yourself completely. Remember, the key word here is maintain motivation. So at this point, you're finding ways that help you to push through when you don't really want to continue doing things that get you towards your goal, because that's going to happen. This is a long-term process, and everybody kind of waxes and wanes in their motivation when they're doing things that take a long time. So you need to do things that keep your goal in the forefront of your mind every day. So for me, I'm going to post a picture of someone who looks like me completing a half Ironman. That's going to motivate me, because when I see people do things that are impressive, physically impressive things, that pumps me up, and that makes me want to go out and work out and do more and become better. And then name at least one person you can share your goal with who can keep you motivated. If you keep this a secret, then you're more likely to give up on it and never follow through with it. I mean, you can start out fast and hot, but if nobody else knows that you're doing this thing, when things get tough and you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have that accountability of other people knowing what you're doing. So if I tell Dirce, my wife, that I'm doing this half Ironman thing, I mean, this is kind of a source of shame and guilt because I'm letting her down, and I don't. But at the same time, it's also motivation of my self-identity, because I don't want to become a liar. If I tell Dirce I'm going to complete this half Ironman and then I don't do it, well, then I've made myself out to be a liar, and I know I'm not a liar. So that pushes me to go forward and to follow through and to be someone who tells the truth. And then plan to sustain your commitment in the face of an obstacle. So for me, an example, if I have a craving for an energy drink or something that's not necessarily all that healthy, like a snack, my idea is to finish drinking a full water bottle and refill it when I have that kind of craving. So I'm taking this thing that is potentially bad, and instead of just saying, no, don't do that, I've got something that I'm going to do in its place. I'm replacing a bad habit with a good habit. In this case, I'm drinking a lot of water instead of eating those unhealthy things and drinking those unhealthy things. A couple of other examples. Soldiers who have the goal of getting promoted to the next rank, they'll often pin the next rank inside of their uniform so that it's there when they take their uniform off, they see it. It's something that is a constant reminder, or at least a regular reminder. We know that motivation is powerful. We know that internal motivation is powerful in terms of sustaining behavior. Therefore, consider creating a commitment strategy that draws or taps on one or more of your personal values. Think back to step 1, where we checked off those boxes of things that we do every day that were personal values. And then other people can be a powerful motivator too. So share your goals with other people. Now, what we're doing here is planning for obstacles, because we know that obstacles are going to come up. So we'll have some when-then statements, and let me show you that here on the PDF. So step 6, commit yourself completely. A strategy to stage my surroundings to automatically trigger pursuit of my goal. Find a picture of someone who looks like me completing an Ironman, post it in key places around home and work where I'll see it. Person to share my goal with, Dirce and Emily, my spouse and my child. So here's those when-then statements. When I am craving an energy drink, then I will finish drinking water from my bottle and immediately refill it. So we know that those obstacles are going to pop up. We know it. It's inevitable. So let's be proactive and think about things that we can do in those moments when things come up that will potentially hinder us in our progress towards our goal. So that's step 6. Last step here, step 7. Remember, the key word is IPR, in-process review. Until you reach your goal, you'll need constant, deliberate effort to ensure your progress. So the idea here is that you want to review how you're doing in pursuit of your goal. Don't just let this be something that you drift towards now without ever deliberately going back and seeing what your progress looks like. Back to the GPS example, you can go back and see how many miles you've gone. And that can be a motivator to say, I mean, for me on a long trip, I know when I get past the halfway point, it's a big motivator for me because I'm like, well, now I've got fewer miles than I've gone so far. So it motivates me to push through and keep going, especially when I'm on a drive by myself. Now you're going to be the one who decides how often you need to do this. So step 5 was sort of a quick check to make sure that you're doing all those small things. This is a bigger, more comprehensive check on your progress. You're seeing how you're doing overall in the pursuit of your goal. And what we need to do at this point when we're starting the process is identify the date of your first check-in. So set an actual day, a day in a month where you're going to do your first IPR. And then brainstorm how you'll leverage your values when you face an unexpected obstacle. So what we were covering in step 6 was covering expected obstacles, but in step 7, we're coming up with ways to figure out what to do in the face of an unexpected obstacle. Because you're not going to anticipate everything that shows up that gets in the way of you pursuing your goal. So step 7, continually monitor your progress. How often I'll check in. And you might need to change this, but basically set up a plan now, and then you can adjust it later. It's easier to adjust your plan than to come up with a plan on the fly. So how often will I check in? Every 30 days. And my first check-in date will be the first day of, well, we're coming into January. We're pretty close to January. So let's say the first day of February. I'm going to check and see what my progress look like. When I face unexpected obstacles, I will leverage my value of setting a good example for my kids by developing at least 2 possible solutions to demonstrate that they can learn from setbacks rather than fear them. So the idea here is when something happens that I didn't expect, rather than letting it put me down, I'm going to think about one of my values, and then I'm going to think about an action statement that motivates me to pursue that value. So I want to set a good example for my kids. That's something that's valuable to me. And I'm going to do that by developing 2 possible solutions to demonstrate that they can learn from setbacks rather than fear them. So when something unexpected comes up, like for example, I don't know, I get hurt, like I get an injury, then I'm going to develop a couple of solutions to maybe do alternative training that doesn't exacerbate that injury, that doesn't make it worse. That kind of thing is going to set a good example for Emily. It'll be something that maybe she won't see because she's so young, but who knows? Kids soak up things and they surprise you all the time. So the idea is to try and anticipate what you'll do in the face of an unexpected circumstance. And that's it. That's the 7-step process for setting up a goal. So we have covered my example, but now the onus is on you. We're going to give you some time to come up with your own goal and to flesh out this goal through the 7 steps that we have here. So remember, just as a recap, step 1, define your goal. Step 2, know where you are right now. Step 3, decide what you need to develop. Step 4, make a plan for steady improvement. Step 5, pursue regular action. Step 6, commit yourself completely. And step 7, continually monitor your progress. A couple of things to ask yourself after you're done setting up your goal. What did you learn throughout this exercise? If you come back and answer these questions, it's really going to help it stick a lot more in your mind, because really, why are we doing this if we don't want it to stick? This isn't just something that we're doing to check a box. It's something that we're doing to improve our lives going forward for the rest of our lives. So take these questions seriously. First one, what did you learn throughout this exercise? Step 2, what step did you find most difficult? And ask yourself why. Why was that step difficult? And if you see fit to do so, I'd be happy to talk about why you think that particular step is difficult. When I did this the first time, there were a couple of steps that I thought were kind of silly. Like I said, I kind of drank the Kool-Aid after a couple of days, but I came into this a little bit skeptical. Let me know your thoughts. Certainly not something you have to do, but I'm open to the discussion. What did you find most challenging about coaching your partner to use this skill? Well, not really going to have partners here, so we can kind of skip that one, unless you do it with a roommate or a spouse or someone. How will you implement goal setting into your life? So make this personal. We've had a lot of theoretical talk. We've talked about doing it. Now you're going to have the opportunity to do it yourself. How are you going to do that? And how are you going to use goal setting to increase your performance? And how will you use it as a leader or a family member? So how are you going to make this something that helps you as a leader, or something as a mother, a father, a spouse, or a son or a daughter? How are you going to use this personally in your life to make your life better? All right, check on learning here. So this is sort of a recap. What is the skill? Goal setting is a process to deliberately energize, direct, and sustain your own behavior to ensure progress. When do I use it? Use goal setting when you want to establish a plan to achieve success. Surprise, you use goal setting when you want to achieve a goal. How do I use it? Execute the 7 steps in the goal setting process. Define your goal, know where you are right now, decide what you need to develop, make a plan for steady improvement, pursue regular action, commit yourself completely, continually monitor your progress. So that's it. That's the practical portion of goal setting. Now, let's switch back over to the PDF. Oh, and here's another example of what it'll look like to have all of these priority areas fleshed out with action statements and power statements. Just another format there. Now we've provided you with a blank one, a blank 7-step goal setting process starting on page 26 of the PDF that I've provided for you all. So now just, take your time, have fun with this. I'm going to go ahead and give you an hour on the training. I'm going to tell your company leadership or our leadership that this is going to take you about an hour. So you get an hour of paid Army time to set up your own goal. So fill all of this out. Go ahead and refer back to this video as much as you need to for anything that's not clear. Reach out to your leadership if you come up with anything that I don't really cover in the video or something that's not clear, to help you kind of flesh this out a little bit. Ideally, we would be in person so that you could do all of this and have me there or a partner there to help you run through this. But we are where we are. So anyways, make this your own. We're coming into a new year. Everybody always comes up with goals that most of the time are just abandoned by February or March when they come into a new year. This is going to help you to stick with it. So what's something new that you want to do this year? Flesh it out. Write it down. Be deliberate about it. And if you stick with this process, you'll get there. Now, the goal setting process, it doesn't really have an end state. The end state is achieving your goal, obviously, but most of the time, once you achieve a goal, then you just come up with a new goal right then and there on the spot. It just kind of naturally happens for the most part. That's okay. Life's long. Come up with more goals. If it's worth setting up a 7-step process when you come up with that new goal, then do it. At least give it a shot for one goal, and then if you like it, keep doing it. That is it for goal setting, everybody. I hope this was at least a little bit entertaining. I hope that you find value in this. Again, I would love to talk to you all about this. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback, reach out to me. I'm open to the conversation. Don't worry about rank. Don't worry about being in a different company. I would love to talk about this. So reach out. Have a good day.